Welcome back to the Loose Framing Podcast. I'm Tyler Martin-Olich, and joining me as always is...
Jesse Brock.
Welcome back, Jesse.
Hi.
I am glad to be here for part 2 of our 2-part discussion with Academy Award-winning father and son, Jordan and Jordy Klein.
Yes.
We hope you guys enjoyed the last episode. It was really cool. Just some of the stories they told is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And it was you can listen to a podcast in a bunch of different ways, but we also have a YouTube channel, and I think this is one of the few ones we've done where I would recommend, if you're listening to this for the first time, go back and see it again on our YouTube channel.
Definitely.
Because there's so many cool things. Normally, we're always in this awesome space, Lot 1901, filming our podcasts. But we had the opportunity to go up to Jordan and Jordy Klein's office. I can't even call it an office. It's a museum.
What we call in the industry on location.
On location, yes.
Jargon for you.
But it really was a museum walking through there. I mean, just the amount of memorabilia, sets, pieces of props from over the years, photos going back 65, 70 years.
Yeah. And we have footage of all of that.
We do. So if you're tuning in and you're just listening to us on one of our podcast streaming sites, we'd encourage you to visit us on YouTube just to see this one episode and maybe watch the other episodes again.
And the chemistry, I mean, they're father-son, so it's so cute, for lack of a better word, to see Jordy Klein kind of like light up when his dad is telling these iconic stories. And I mean, they're both legends in their own right.
No, it was really cool. I mean, obviously, they're a close-knit family. They're both incredibly accomplished. But even though Jordy spent most of his life, working with his father, there were some stories that Jordan Klein told that his son had never heard before, which I thought was really cool. That we were able to bring that out.
Like, this is the first time I'm hearing this story. So he's just as much of a fan as we are. It's so cool to watch. It
was really an honor to talk to these guys. So with that, we won't belabor this anymore. Enjoy episode 2. We'll be right back. So the apple obviously doesn't fall far from the tree. We've got 2 generations here, but you have, what, 3 daughters?
Yeah, and one of them's welding a water housing for me right now as we speak.
I mean, you are a film family.
Right.
You guys have been doing this for a long time. Was it rewarding to you to see your own kids sort of mirror what you were doing like you did with your dad?
Yeah, absolutely. And which I think a lot of there's a lot of smart kids today, millennials or XZ Gen, whatever you want to call them. But I find a lot of them are really smart when it comes to computers and book smart, what I like to say. And I think what's lacking a lot of like young people today is common sense.
Yeah.
So what I was proud of is that all of my daughters, I have one that's a mechanical engineer and builds drones up in Maryland, and then the one here, it's a metallurgical engineer welder, and then I have one daughter that's autistic. But both of my daughters, what I'm the most proud of is that they have common sense.
Yeah. In
addition to practical knowledge of things,
which I think both of you have common sense in spades. You wouldn't have.
Yeah, we wouldn't be alive.
Yeah.
Right now. Not to say that we haven't done a lot of stupid things.
Yeah. What was the last thing you shot, Jordan? You can remember?
Oh, I think I know, and it's what led to his retirement.
Huh?
X-Files.
Yeah.
Remember that? You were, I think, in Seattle in the winter.
Yep.
Just miserable. I'm not.
And your
doing
dry
this anymore.
suit was leaking, and it was at night.
And I ended up black, and my wetsuit was leaking, and I'm shooting at a diver, I forgot what. And there was just a few dock lights I was shooting against. And I felt funny because the water was coming up my leg. And I looked up and, wow, everything is pretty far away. And then my legs got into some steel cables. And I finally hit bottom, and I said, holy smokes, I'm in 90 feet of water, because I knew it was 90 feet there. And so I start blowing air in my suit to come back up. And then there was a boat with a ramp in the front. And I came up and yelled, and a couple of guys came over and grabbed my arms and pulled me out on my belly. And I froze the next 3 days. But that was
just
fun.
Sounds miserable.
Yeah.
And dangerous.
That was really stupid on my part, the whole setup. I should have learned more about the setup. But the guy said, oh, just a simple shot. Just get the shot. I forgot what was jumping in the water. And it was an unimportant shot on top of all that.
Yeah.
There's like a 30-foot tide there too. So
yeah,
it started off, and then
14 feet, yeah.
Over the period of filming, it changed like 20 feet.
Yeah. Is there like an underwater sequence or an aerial sequence that you shot or worked on that you're most proud of?
I'm sure there is, but I can't think of what it is now.
I can think of a cool one that we did together. The original TV series Miami Vice.
Mm-hmm.
They hired him. They hired him to direct an aerial sequence. The name of this episode is called One Way Ticket. If you ever watch it,
How do you remember that?
I don't know. Because I remember seeing the slate.
Oh, okay.
But they had a B-25 bomber, and they took the tail off of it, and then we mounted a camera because there's no like remote.
And it was a 360-degree window.
Yeah,
so
in the front of the plane, it had a 360-degree window, but the back, you took the whole tail off, and you could be at like 10,000 feet with your legs hanging out the back shooting. And this was a World War II bomber.
Yeah.
But anyways, there's a scene where this Learjet came up from underneath and just got like 6 feet away from us while we're at 10,000 feet. And, the camera was just on a hi-hat it was a 35 millimeter camera, of course. And he was directing the plane and I was shooting. It was the coolest thing ever.
The Lear was supposed to crash into the ocean.
Yeah.
So we followed it down and then pulled up the last second.
And then that's right. We transitioned the camera to the front of the plane, and we dove down high rate of speed. And then there's part of the storyline was this guy's supposed to fake committing suicide. So the plane dove down and then pulled up at the last minute, probably 50, 100 feet off the water.
Yeah.
While we were filming. But just being in a World War II bomber, doing all those type of maneuvers, it was the coolest thing ever.
Yeah. Oh, I can imagine. So, Jordan, I think I read this somewhere. I don't remember where, but you had gone into the Navy, but you had originally wanted to be a pilot, and they wouldn't let you because you were colorblind.
Correct.
Was it after you got out, like a finger to the man saying, hell, I'm going to do it anyway? That's why you went out and got your pilot's license? Obviously, you wanted to do it anyway, but...
Yeah, well, the ironic part is after the war, I wanted to get my license, but I had soloed at 16, and what I wanted to do was to get a license, obviously, and in order to do that, at that time, you could go to the FAA office and say there's a test you could take. So the test was jump in a car with the guy from the office, go out on the runway someplace, or I forgot where he went, and call the tower and says, flash us a light. And then the guy would say, what color was it? So I guess good. That's white. Okay. Give us another one. That's red. Okay. What's that one? That's green. Oh, good. You passed. Signs a waiver.
So you just blind guessed it.
Yep.
That's the first time I heard that story.
That's amazing. Or the guy just really liked you and you slipped him $5, but that's a good one. You're not colorblind, are you?
No.
No. Okay. No. I mean, you were telling us a story earlier how, your first time up in the air, you could barely see over the yoke and you were flying it. What is it about flying that you enjoy more than anything else?
Probably just like the freedom of not having to get stuck in traffic, and that you can go up, down, left, right, and then you could scare people that are with you.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I guess just it's something that's very fun to do because of the freedom involved in it.
Yeah.
And I'm totally different. I have a different reason for loving. It's a situation you get in where there's a start, the transition, and the end. So you have, for effect, you might say, traveling from A to B, you have total control.
Yeah.
And especially if it's an instrument flight, then you have I have great satisfaction at knowing that I transition through a storm or whatever, or at nighttime or so on, and going from A to B and getting there. The start and the doing of it and the completion of it is what turns me on.
Yeah.
But I like the fact of flying, though. I mean, I like just flying. Like he said, that's if I can't go any place, then I guess I got to settle for flying around the area.
Yeah.
I'd say that's a really good reason as well.
Yeah. No, that's. I mean, I don't fly at all, but that's a really unique perspective. So, when was the first time you were actually doing aerials with a camera involved? Do you remember what that project was?
I can remember I got hired by, I think it's the city of Ocala, to take some still pictures of the courthouse. And I borrowed, he has this Hasselblad film camera. This is years ago, obviously. And so I asked him if I could borrow the camera, and loaded it up. And my buddy had a Cessna, an old Cessna, and we took the door off. And the idea was he was going to fly, and I'm going to just lean out of the door with the camera and take pictures. So this is an old plane, 50s era. And I was leaning over the side, and in this particular plane, the seat belts were attached to the seat, and the seats were in tracks. And I guess I was leaning really hard, and one of the sides of the seat came out of the track. And I started falling out of the plane and grabbed the strut. Fortunately, the plane had the strut, and I grabbed the strut, and I was hanging onto the strut, or I would have fell out seat and all. And the camera was flapping like this, and my buddy that was in a plane had to reach over and grab my shirt collar and pull me, for all he's worth, back into the plane.
Yeah.
And that's probably my first, I think I was like 15 or something at the time, but that was a pretty memorable experience, and my first photography.
Almost your last.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there a piece of advice your dad gave you at any point that just really changed the direction of your career, or something you always remember?
Dangerous territory here.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if this is a good piece of advice or just something that he told me. And it might get me in trouble for the whole industry. I don't know if I should say it or not, but I'll go ahead and say it, whatever. But I can remember remember how I was saying how there's the ratio between good directors.
Yeah.
So some of the directors that were on the latter part of the scale, meaning not what I would consider great, they would overcompensate, by yelling at the crew. And I'm sure everybody in this room knows the type.
Yeah.
But when I was little, I could never understand that. And I'm like, Dad, why, how come that director, like these other the good directors they all listen to what you're saying. And then these guys, they just yell at everybody. They put everybody down. And he goes, well, son, and I remember him being real serious about this. And he goes, this guy is probably at home 350 days a year. His wife yelling at him to take out the trash, go do this, go buy a gallon of milk, go change the baby's diaper, go do this. And for this, 5 to 10 days a year, he gets to boss all these people around. So he's really, trying to give it all he's got for that 10 days, maybe not consecutive 10 days, but so I always thought about that. And, when my daughters were young, they asked me the very same question when we were on a first movie set, and I explained them, and it made sense to them as well.
Which is probably true,
Yeah.
Your aggression however you can sometimes.
Right. But I don't know, that really wasn't the question you're asking. But
it's something that you remembered, and that was what was important.
Yeah,
for
but what else I used to say is do something even if it's wrong.
Yes, that was his favorite saying. If I didn't know what to do, he would just yell, just do something, even if it's wrong.
Yeah, don't let time make your decision.
Yeah.
At least you can say, I won't do that again. But if you let time make the decision, you're going to do it again.
Yeah. That's amazing advice, actually. And think of all the things you've done that if you had hesitated or thought through, you probably wouldn't have done it.
Right.
You probably wouldn't be where you're at today as far as your career goes, or your career.
Yeah.
That's really good advice. let's transition a little bit to your company, which is XCam. I mean, you also have just Jordy Klein. But you are pioneering like your dad did with underwater housing. You're doing the same thing now in the drone space. Yeah. It's really exciting, and it's putting your own stamp on the film industry, just like your dad did. What excites you about just either the limitations right now of drone photography, that you're able to engineer something that gets beyond that? I mean, what is your passion about drones?
Well, as you know,
before you get to that, the big thing he's done so far is stabilization systems. Yep. Stabilized cameras on aircraft or on car, truck, boat, and we built some of them here.
And got nominated for an Academy Award.
Yeah.
For a device called a Mako head.
Yep.
And that was designed to just basically say take one of the tripods like what we've got here on with these what we call the fluid heads, and you put this device between the tripod and the fluid head. So even though the tripod was rocking, the camera would stay perfectly level on top.
Yeah. So it's a gimbal essentially, right?
Yes, a gimbal, but it's only what's that?
Stabilized.
A stabilized gimbal that's only designed to keep something stable. In other words, you would hand operate the tripod just as if you're standing here.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was something that we got nominated for an Academy Award. And that was one of the scariest things. You're asking about one of the scariest things I've ever done. Yeah. I had to talk for 15 minutes as to why I deserved an Academy Award in front of the Academy. So
I didn't realize they made you do that.
Yeah.
It's like
I didn't realize it either. So like I got up there and I see like James Cameron, Robert De Niro, all these guys. And I'm like, what am I doing here? And so they're like, okay, very critical. When you see that green light come on, you start talking. When you see the red light come on, you stop immediately. And
I didn't have to do that.
I know you didn't, because this was a technical achievement award that I was getting.
Yeah.
So
I don't even know if I mentioned. I think I did, but Jordan, you won the Academy Award for Thunderball, right?
No, for whatever.
Well,
what's it say up there?
Co-won Academy Award for the Thunder.
Yeah, but at that time, ever since Cleopatra, they only gave it to the production company. So that's what happened.
Yeah.
So I got to hold
it. You got your picture.
Right.
And you weren't even around to go to the award ceremony, right? You were off filming something else.
Yeah, I was doing a film with Troy Donahue in Nassau.
Yeah.
And I thought they're not going to win. So they called me and said, well, Ivan Torres called me and said, if we win, can I go pick it up for you? I said, sure. Knock yourself out. And we won. They came and woke me up I forgot what time it was. And they woke me up at the hotel and said, you won. You should have been there. I said, now you tell me.
Did you go to yours even though you didn't win?
Well, there's a whole story about that, but that I don't really want to go into the details. But shortly after I was nominated and I gave the scariest speech of my life, a gentleman came up to me and claimed that I stole his idea and that he had a patent on anything that stabilized anything. And it took us like 12 years to
resolve the whole thing.
Good Lord.
Ridiculous. So that's a whole nother interview.
Yeah. We'll get into litigation.
But we prevailed,
yeah.
But now, that's kind of a moot point.
Yeah. So talk us a little bit about, I asked you about the drones, and we'll get to that, but tell us a little bit about just your company, what you do, I'll call them the toys in your inventory, because you have some amazing things, and then your spinoff XCam and what you're doing there.
Yep. So starting off with the drones, we've always tried to stay one step ahead of like the competition, so to speak. And this starting at like 2006, we built like a gigantic single rotor, conventional style radio controlled helicopter before there's any such thing as what they call multi-rotors. And we built this stabilized gimbal that had these big spinning mass gyros that spun underneath. And we'd put the film camera in it, and that's what we would use. And then as things progressed, we got an electronically stabilized gyro with servos in it. And then in like 2000, I don't know, 6 or 8 or 10, something like that, they started coming out with these multi-rotors. And I happened to run upon this guy named Bobby Watts and several other people that helped design and build some of our first systems. And it was pretty cool because at that time there was nothing. And it was carbon fiber and a lot of R&D. You know, you put something together and it would just wig out and start over again and just keep trying. And now, you know, we have ones now that will carry a 100-pound payload, and you have to have a special waiver to fly over 55 pounds. And you know, each motor is like 7 horsepower. It has 6 of these motors, and the gimbal is the same gimbal that you would use to put on a crane. You know,
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible that transition that's evolved over time.
And your drones are being used on some of the biggest productions.
We just did
in the
that
world.
Stranger Things and
Yep.
a bunch of, you know, Netflix shows. A new one that's coming out called Florida Man.
Which didn't shoot in Florida, I might add.
Yeah, exactly. That was ridiculous. But that's, again, another...
Another topic. But that's got to be rewarding, right? I mean, it's not some
Yes.
prosumer DJI thing you bought off the
Right.
store shelf. Not only did you innovate it, but you created this, and now look at what it's doing for the industry. That's amazing.
Yeah, for sure. So it's, you know, that's not to say that other people haven't, just like him, you know, other people don't build underwater housing. So
Yeah.
it's like there's other people that build drones that are just as nice, you know, and robust as the ones that we manufacture.
Yeah.
But additionally, we're into these ones called FPV drones that are called first-person view, where you fly it by just putting on these virtual reality glasses, and you actually see what the drone sees, like you're sitting in a full-size airplane. And we put full-size cameras on these. You know, normally they started off with little GoPros on them, but we actually put full-size cinematic cameras on them. And it seems kind of crazy because they do it like 150, 160 miles an hour, but it seems to be the newest trend in cinematic filmmaking. So we're trying to be pioneers in that.
That's got to be nerve-wracking, no different than putting a camera in an underwater housing or putting it on a drone. That's a very expensive piece of equipment either way. Have you had just catastrophic failures with an underwater housing or something like that?
Yeah. We had one where, this was years ago, I was shooting with the Area 2C, and my assistant handed me the camera, and he hands it over the side, and I always look face down and look into the lens because you're going to see water there if it's leaking. Fortunately, that rarely happened. But this time I see the water just pouring in, so I shoved it back up, and he was still looking, so he grabbed it and pulled it. So I grabbed the side of the boat and looked in, and he had a towel clamped in it.
So it didn't close all the way.
So I couldn't believe it.
That's the #1 rule. You never work on underwater housing sitting on a towel.
Yeah.
Just for that
Because
reason.
it will get stuck in it.
Yeah.
Have you ever had a drone go down? I probably shouldn't have asked that.
You had
but-
one, I thought, out in the Pacific, didn't you, when you were doing surfing?
No, we didn't lose one there. I mean, we had lost one early on. Still to this day, don't know what happened, but it just was flying perfect, and then just it wasn't.
Yeah.
But we haven't really lost any drones, knock on wood, for since probably 5 years or so, knock on wood, that due to some sort of a malfunction.
Yeah.
And it is kind of scary. One of the, we always have a safety meeting before we fly whenever, and we have the whole crew gather around, and the AD will say, okay, Jordy's going to talk to you about some of the safety protocols involved when flying a heavy lift drone. And I always tell people, okay, remember, don't be on your phones looking, taking pictures. Just always watch the drone, especially when it's taking off and when it's landing. And everybody's yeah, whatever. And the only thing I can say to them that makes it really hit home is the fact that I say, and most of the components on this drone are made in China. Then all of a sudden, everybody's like, okay, yeah, I'm putting my phone away.
Yeah. So, you guys are both Florida boys. You've chosen to make Florida your home. This seems like just at the level you're working at, you'd be out in LA or New York. Why have you decided to stay in Florida for as long as you have?
I was thinking I had an offer to go out there after Thunder Bowl. Ivan Torres invited me to come out there and be part of his studio. And I thought about it, and I'd spent time out there, so I knew what it was all about. And I just thought about it, and I said, I'm happy here. So, I don't know. You got the water, everything's close by. The water's cold in California.
Yeah.
And so this is better.
What about you?
Same exact reason.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time out there on movies, and it's crowded.
Because you work all over.
Yeah, still go out there quite a bit. I can identify more with the people here.
Yeah.
The same reasons he just said.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. We're probably running low on our cards here, so a couple last questions here. Jordan, I know you mentioned some advice you gave to your son, but if someone's starting out today, out of all your years of experience, what would you tell them? Like what's that one thing that you wish someone had told you early on in your career?
Get into a different field. No, seriously. I think now it would be a pretty tough road to hoe.
Yeah.
But back when there wasn't too many people, I think I could give some good advice. But that advice is worthless today, because anybody that has a credit card can go out and buy the equipment you need, and the equipment pretty much that an expert would be using. So I guess it's a matter of talent and perseverance and trying to find the right entry place, which nowadays I don't know what it is.
Yeah. What do you think it is, Jordy?
I don't know. I always
tell someone. What did you tell your daughters when they were getting into it?
I always joke with the guys that, especially if it's a new hire, like a guy that I using for the first time, I always tell them, just remember, there's no I in team and no you in next job. So
I put that in a T-shirt.
Yeah,
I'll quote you.
Yeah. So no, but in all seriousness, I used to give advice to people that wanted to be cinematographers to go work in a camera equipment rental house and just say you'll work there for free.
Yeah.
And you'll just say, don't even pay me. Just let me sweep the floors, maybe peek over your shoulder looking at the cameras when you're prepping them to go out. And then I started getting calls from all the camera rental places saying, would you please stop telling people to come over here and work for free? But no, but a lot of them did do really well doing just that.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at some of the universities that charge a fortune for a 2-year degree. Not to say that they don't give you really great opportunities to work with the most modern equipment, but if you can't afford to spend, whatever the cost now, 80, 100 grand,
yeah,
that is the best way, I think.
Yeah. I've always told people the same thing. Like, you want to be a gaffer, you want to be the best rigger ever, go work at a rental house, man. You'll learn the entire truck top to bottom. Same thing at a camera house.
Yep.
So you guys have seen the industry between 2 generations from, the infancy of underwater photography and what it could do to now what people are doing with aerial stuff with the drones. What do you think that the next thing is that's going to revolutionize or change the way the industry works?
Well, I think that production insurance is a big motivator as to where this industry's going. The days of like putting people on camera cranes and riding them out over the water, or putting a manned person in a helicopter to operate a camera, man, it just seems like insurance nowadays has just gotten crazy. Like my drone, I've got to have $20 million worth of liability insurance to shoot at one of the local theme parks.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine that has a full-size helicopter says he's paying $100,000 a year just for liability insurance for one of his helicopters. I mean, if you think about how much work you have to do to make just the insurance.
Right.
So what I'm getting around to is I think that this industry is moving to non-manned camera, equipment, like the drones. And we've got a boat that has got a fully robotic crane on it that you could conceivably stand on the dock and with today's video transmitters transmit the image and the control signals, 3-4 miles away. So you wouldn't actually have to have people in harm's way out on the boat or on a truck or a car while you're shooting a chase scene where there could be an accident. So I'm thinking that that's where a lot of this is going, is unmanned personnel.
Yeah. And that makes sense. Robotics are slowly pushing their way into all
I'm not
facets.
saying I like it.
Yeah.
I don't like it at all.
Someone still needs to operate it, though,
Right.
at least in theory for right now, until the overlords take over. Right. So I don't want to end this without you giving a plug for your business, because I recommend you all the time. Like if you need anything from, camera car to camera, boat, aerials, you do it all. So just give us a rundown of just all the services that you provide.
Well, I always just tell people, if you want to shoot an interview like this, don't call me. This is not what I do. I guess I could stand in a bucket of water or something and pan, what I call pan, tilt, and invoice.
Yeah. That's great.
So anything that most people don't want to do, like being underwater, filming something, or again, a drone, which especially if it's a heavy lift drone where it's got one of these movie type cameras on it, then XCam aerials, it's xcamaerials.com. Don't just type in XCam, or that'll take you a different,
I'm sure it
totally
will.
different site. Because people call and say, "Why is your site a porn site?" I said, "Well, did you type in XCam aerials?" But anyways, I should have thought that one through more before.
I had thought about that, but I'm going to Google that now.
Right. You probably
Not
don't.
from the work computer, at least.
Right. So we've got these high-speed FPV cameras that we've been doing a lot of, like race, like NASCAR type things and offshore boat racing and things like that. And again, that's XCam aerials. And then if you just type in plainoldjordy.com, that's my other website that has our boats and underwater gear and specialty type stuff.
That's the first thing that comes up if you Google it.
Yes. Although somebody just did offer me a huge amount of money for jordy.com.
Was that his name? He just really wanted it?
I think so.
If Elon Musk can buy Twitter,
right,
there's always a price tag.
Yep. But somebody actually, Seth Rogen's girlfriend is named Jordan Klein.
Yeah, the girl.
Yeah, and offered to buy his Jordan Klein.
Jordan Klein.
That's amazing. Don't sell it. Hold on to that. So last question for you both. You've done amazing things in your career, whether it's arguably crazy things like going through a torpedo tube or going down to see the Titanic, just all the encounters you've had with sharks and wildlife up in the air, doing all these things. Is there something that you always wanted to do but weren't able to do it, or has never gotten the opportunity to do it? Like, what's that one thing you were always chasing you never got to do? Or you've done it all?
I'd like to fly a high-speed jet, not just a Tinker toy.
Yeah.
But like a military jet. I came close to buying a 29, L-29. In fact, there's a picture of one over there, yeah. Anyhow, I didn't do it.
No.
fortunately, burned 125 gallons an hour.
Oh my God. Just the gas prices today, I couldn't imagine.
Right.
What about you, Jordan?
I was just thinking about it, and I think that would be the same thing. I'd love to probably fly in like a supersonic jet.
Yeah.
And like a single or two-place jet. And like I was just filming out at Cape Canaveral, and they have these starfighters out there that can actually go into outer space and fly at like Mach 4, Mach 5. And they charge $120,000 for a
we'll
ride.
Both go.
Huh?
We'll both go.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess if I had tons of dough, I'd probably drop the 125 grand.
Yeah.
Of course, this is like 2 years ago, so
Probably double.
3 times that now. But
Well, I heard Tom Cruise is shooting a movie in space soon. So
I heard that too.
You can try to get on that crew. I couldn't imagine actually going up there with him.
I don't know. I don't really have
Space
too much.
station.
I just was listening to an Elon Musk thing, and he says, "My dream is to die on Mars, but just not on impact."
That's a good caveat there.
Right.
Well, with that, I think we'll wrap this one up. It's been a pleasure spending the last hour talking to you guys. The wonderful stories. And for those who are watching on YouTube, the memorabilia in this office is absolutely staggering. It's like the who's who of Hollywood. Amazing shots, amazing things. I cannot think of two people who have lived more and more fully than the two of you. So thank you
Especially
again
him.
for
We do our
being
best.
here.
Yeah.
And you have, sir. Thank you both for spending this time with us. And for those watching, we'll be back next time. Welcome back. That's the conclusion of part 2 of our 2-part podcast with Jordy and Jordan Klein.
Yeah.
That was an awesome podcast.
Yeah, it was. It really was.
That was, we've had, actually,
I'm starstruck over here.
My
Sorry.
favorite so far, but we've had the opportunity to talk with a lot of cool people over the last year. But this one was really special because it's, a father and son, incredibly talented, but just genuinely good people too.
Yeah.
People that
Salt of the earth.
Yeah, absolutely. These are pioneers in the industry that have built a career with their own 2 hands. I think that's really cool.
It's very cool. And I love how that legacy kind of trickles down from Jordan Klein Sr. to Jordy Klein to now his 2 daughters.
Yep.
Elle and Rossi are both in the film industry. One of them is working with drone operations, and the other one, while we were filming there, was welding and fabricating something for a film set that they're working on right now. And I thought that was so cool that they're both in the industry, but in these very hands-on kind of tactical positions. So you could do anything in the film industry, and it's very cool.
Yeah. Well, you have to take inspiration from the people that led you, throughout your life, and you look at what Jordan Klein was able to accomplish. Because you remember, like we said earlier, and it obviously came out during the podcast, that he was a pioneer in underwater photography. But I really want people to understand that underwater photography did not exist really prior to him and a few other people sort of, operating at the same time, creating the underwater housings, creating the specialized cameras that could take pressure at depth.
And he sort of talked about that, that trial and error where the water kept coming into the housing and it just ruined the camera. But you got to learn and you fail and you fix it. And he just innovated that entire technology single-handedly, pretty much.
And then Jordy, the same thing with aerial photography. It wasn't just hanging out of a helicopter with a camera.
Right.
How do we mount the camera on the helicopter? How do we get it to do high-speed things in what's arguably not an incredibly easy environment to film in? You're flying around. You're at the whims of the wind and the talent of the pilot.
They're both definitely daredevils.
Yes.
And I think you did mention that earlier. You were asking them, there's an amount of risk that's involved, and they didn't, they're very humble people, but there is, they're pretty much badass.
Yeah. I don't know anyone else who has, shot themselves out of a torpedo tube during World War II.
Yeah.
To
goosebumps, even saying that.
Yes. Think about that. That's nuts. I shouldn't say that. It's very brave, but also a little nuts. You have to have either supreme confidence in your own abilities or just the naivete, I think, that, you don't truly realize the danger at the time because no one's done this before, right? So you're sort of pioneering new space, and there's certainly a bravery there that is just hard to comprehend.
Right. But back to they have different facets in the film industry, from underwater housing to drones to welding. I had a question for you. You come from a background of line producing, production managing, all of that kind of stuff. Is there something that you want to do in the film industry that you haven't, or that you, like, forget all bills or whatever, but that you want to do, like screenwriting or acting or some, I don't know, stunts? Do you want to be like a stunt double?
No, quite dissimilar to the Kleins. I have never felt the need to jump out of a plane or shoot myself out of a torpedo tube. Or race a car.
Urge.
No, that's not my bag. But I don't know. I guess if I was remotely musically inclined, I would love to do audio, but I'm not. As I think
you
I've
have a
told
great narrative voice, though. I can see that.
Well, maybe for voiceover or something like that, or like a.
Oh, you mean audio
job.
for singing?
But I cannot actually keep rhythm at all. I cannot play any instruments. In fact, I think it was my fourth grade music teacher, after the first semester, just took my instrument away and said, "Please do anything other than music."
That's harsh.
It is harsh, and if that woman's listening, she ruined my career. I could have been a very talented musician.
It's her fault.
But yeah, it was just a really great podcast. I mean, just so many cool stories that are completely unique to them, that no one else could have told or experienced those things other than those guys.
And it's just a really unique episode for us.
Yeah,
we haven't touched on either one of these.
Who else has Jacques Cousteau as their godfather?
Right? Yeah.
Just
that was the part where I was like, did you work with Jacques Cousteau? And Jordy Klein was like, Jacques Cousteau is my godfather. And I was like, wait, what?
Yeah,
Come again? Yeah, just insane that he grew up with him and was in the presence of that. Yeah. And I mean, just so cool.
It really was. So with that, guys, we really hope you enjoyed this double part episode. We'll have more cool guests coming up, but in the meantime, where can they find us, Jesse Brock?
You can stream Loose Framing Podcast anywhere you stream podcasts, or watch us on YouTube. And don't forget to follow @Film Tampa Bay on all social media channels.
And with that, see you next time.